Alright, guys. So let's move on to The Conjuring 2 from 2016. Now, this one is based on the real life Enfield haunting. Now, I know in the Conjuring videos, the two-parter that I just uploaded this morning on the first movie, went a little hard on the Warrens and Andrea Perron. So I would apologize, but I won't. Like, my channel's not for everybody. Like, people should know that by now. So I'm going to try not to harp on the Warrens as much, but every time I hear like real life ghost hunters and all that, I'm hardwired to not, to just laugh hysterically. So let's talk about this movie. I prefer this movie to the first one in almost every way. This is my favorite in the Conjuring universe, pretty much. Annabelle Creation comes close, but all the rest of them, much inferior films to this and Annabelle Creation. But let's hop into this. 2016, The Conjuring 2, which we have some of the Amityville case at the beginning of this, which, if you recall, was bullshit, just like all of this stuff. And I mean, that's been debunked, like 100%. Like, they have come out, the lawyer for the Lutzes, that they got drunk one night after, like, on a bottle of wine or two, and just thought up, why don't we write a story? And that's basically how this happened. There's never been any instances of hauntings or ghosts or possession or anything like that in that house ever since the Lutzes moved. I live on Long Island. Amityville is 15 minutes from me. I've been to the house. It sucks that they took the windows out, like the iconic windows that look like eyes. They redid that like a long time ago, like decades maybe. So it doesn't look the same. And I've been saying maybe I'll do a video. I'll take a ride out there and like make a video right in front of the house. I don't think anybody's living there right now, so I won't have to worry about being chased away from the property. Like, it's not like I'm going to be walking on the property and on the house and shit. But like, maybe that's an idea. I'll take a ride out to Amityville and just take some little video of the house and everything like that and try not to get arrested. So that'll be fun if I do that sometime. But yeah, they mention Amityville here at the beginning, and again, just bullshit on the Warrens. So they're not here, they're not alive to defend themselves. So basically, this is all my opinions, obviously, but let's just talk about this movie. Now, just to blanket this again from the last movie, Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson just kill it in this movie too. Like I said in the last video, everything that they're in together, they just have such amazing chemistry, such great dynamic between them, and I enjoy the hell out of seeing them act together on screen in every single scene that they're in together for this. So Vera Farmiga, Patrick Wilson, thumbs up, awesome performance as always in this movie. So they're in the Amityville house, and Lorraine says, picture yourself surrounded by white light, it'll protect you. Yeah, okay, let's see how that works. Now, the whole DeFeo case in Amityville, with Ronald DeFeo killing all his family, that is an interesting case, because he shot his whole family dead with a two-barrel shotgun, I'm pretty sure, double-barrel shotgun, and none of them woke up. None of them heard these gunshots. The neighbors didn't hear any of it. So it is an interesting case. And I'm not sure if Ronnie's still alive. I'm pretty sure he got life in prison, like 100%. I'm not sure if he died in prison or if he's still alive. He could possibly be alive, right? Because this was the 70s this took place, and he could still be alive. I got to double check on that. But that's interesting, reading about that whole case. But everything that came after that is just, with Lutz's, is just bullshit. And now the beginning here is very effective. When we see Lorraine going around in her little trance and hearing the voices that DeFeo said that he heard to kill his family, and she's going around with fake, a non-existent shotgun in her hand, but it's effective because this actually happened. And they show the mom sitting up in bed with the father shot next to her, and her saying, "What did you do?" And then Lorraine, like, as DeFeo shoots her, everyone supposedly did not wake up when they were shot. So I don't know why maybe it's just a stylistic choice of having so she's able to say those words of like what did you do? But everyone was supposed to be sleeping, so the mom was not awake when this happened. So I'm guessing it's just a stylistic choice, but this whole opening scene is very well done. We also see the ghost boy in the opening here, which if anybody has ever looked into the Amityville case, there was a photo that was taken that had this in the picture there was a boy ghost. Now it's been debunked that it was pretty much either one of the kids there or that it was, I forgot exactly what they said, but the picture was bullshit. So none of that is real in any sort of way. But it works here for the movie. So they can take all the creative juices that they want and embellish on the story because it is a movie, of course. So let's talk about Valak. Very effective demon. Like great like design for her and everything. Her, he, whatever the hell this demon is. But very effective. Like she looks I'm just gonna keep saying she because it's a fucking nun. So that's what I'm going with. And then we get the whole text here about being based on a true story and that the Enfield haunting, which, if you look into it, the Warrens were never in Britain. Like, I think maybe they went there for a day or two, and that was it. And the rest was like some phone calls. So they had little to almost nothing to do with this case in Enfield. So of course, again, like I said, for the movie and Patrick Wilson, Vera Farmiga, they're the stars here. So of course they're gonna change things, and but the movie shows that like they basically move in with this family for like weeks at a time, trying to figure out what's going on here. Yeah, all right. I know we're going to Britain here, but Jesus Christ, movie like with the London Calling and all the establishing shots of Britain, like all right, we get it. We're in Britain, like like they really kind of went overboard with that. Like the London Calling, enough. Like that alone was enough to establish that yes, we're in the UK now. But it's like way too much UK. Like they went overboard with that. Absolutely. And all the performances I love in this movie too. I love Janet. I love her performance in this. She does a great job. Shut up, phone. And everyone else just gives a very good performance. Sorry for the phone ringing. It's pissing me off. But yeah, after I was rudely interrupted, Janet's a great character. You really feel for this family. Like the mother, too. Like this entire family, you really feel for them and what they supposedly went through. Now, I know that like I haven't read up on these cases in a while, but I know that the only evidence that they really had was the picture of Janet levitating, quote unquote, when she's like, and it looks like she just jumped off the bed, which is exactly what she did. Like she jumped off the bed. You could see the way that she's in the picture that her legs are like, her knees are like up to her chest almost. That she obviously just took a jump off the bed and someone took a picture of it. That's the only like evidence that they have. And then they saw that Janet was Janice was now I'm saying Janice from Annabelle Creation, that Janet faked some paranormal stuff just to make them believe the real paranormal stuff. So right there you have this kid that's faking evidence. I've heard enough. Like right then and there, it's like, yeah, okay. So none of this is actually happening. This is just an imaginative young girl who was probably just looking for attention and started with this whole story. The young brother really loves biscuits, and they don't have any bloody money, so he can't get biscuits. But yet, like later on, like a few scenes from now, there are said biscuits. So she must have got a raise or something. So she was able to buy these biscuits for the young kid. The whole thing with the tent in the hallway upstairs is so Sixth Sense that it's really almost more than an homage. It's kind of just like a ripoff. I can't see it any other way because I mean it's such an iconic scene in The Sixth Sense with the ghost of the girl and spitting up stuff while Haley Joel Osment's character is in the tent. that's such an iconic scene, and it's so much more effectively done that every time I see this movie and I see that tent in the hallway, that's all I can think of is Sixth Sense. Like, I don't know if that was supposed to mean homage. I'm sure it maybe was, but they went a little too close, little too much with that homage. Now Janet and her sister are playing with the Ouija board. And what I like about this movie, compared to so many haunting movies and possession movies, is that they've been living in this house for a while. We don't get the whole cliche of family moves into a new house in a horror movie like that we see in so many of these movies. So I like the fact that they have been living here for a while before this starts. So that brings again into question, like, why was this demon just starting to like mess with the family now after they've been living there for a while? Then I know the father skipped out on them and basically like just said peace and just left his family to fend on their own. And that explains why they're poor and stuff and that they don't have much money. And pretty much all the furniture, like the father bought and then just left there. And then we find out more about the chair in the corner of the living room. And we get that cool scene a little later with Janet putting the water in her mouth, and then the ghost of Billy starts talking. That's a very good scene, and I'll talk more about it when we get to it. Mocking the Holy Trinity. I think that whole explanation for the knocks coming in three that we see in the first movie, I just think demons can't count past three. Maybe they're not good at math. That's my take on it. Gotta say, since becoming friends with Mike, Gareth, and Dave, and all the Brits over there, I understand the lingo and slang a lot more rewatching this now. So thanks, guys. Just the fact here on the TV when they have Ed and Lorraine on here, and some guy who's saying that Amityville was a hoax, Ed replies with, "That's never been proven." Isn't a better answer like, "No, it is true. Like, we were there. Like, if it really was true." Like, what type of answer? That's a weird answer, is that it's never been proven as a hoax. That's just like kind of saying that, yeah, it's a hoax, but no one ever proved it. I don't know. It's a weird choice of dialogue there, like that line that he gives. So I don't know, like, what to think about that. I don't know if he ever actually said that on TV in real life, but it's a weird answer. Just the whole thing with Janet trying to teach Billy, like, because he has speech problems, and they use the little crooked man thing, which was supposed to become a movie too. With the whole, when we see the crooked man later, there was supposed to be a movie in the Conjuring universe called The Crooked Man, and like it, diving into that whole character or whatever the hell he is. I don't know if it's still in development or if it was dropped as a project, but that would have been interesting to see. Just to see another creature or demon or whatever it is in the Conjuring universe. I mean, yeah, you can argue we have enough already, but would have been interesting to see that. So I got to look up news on that and see if it's actually still in production or if it was just, it was just dropped. But it would have been interesting to see. And I mean, cool shot with the swing going back and forth when Billy's looking outside, but I mean, it's just a swinging. Like, it's really not that ominous or anything. It's not like it's something you never see. But, and again, I said this in the first Conjuring, and with so many of these demonic possession movies and ghost hauntings, that they just, for some reason, they have a rule book that they have to move shit around the house and they have to do just stupid stuff first before they can really start the haunting. You see this in so many movies, they're just moving stuff around and messing with things and putting on jazz records and like, it's like they don't have like they're not rushing to get into who they're trying to possess or anything. It's like you'd think you'd want to just like get to work and like get the job done, but they have rules. All right, so demons, ghosts, they got some rules they got to follow, like before they can do actually scary shit. Stay away from Billy. That's a cool scene, and the whole thing, like I said with the last Conjuring, this is a very well made film. Just like pretty much every film from James Wan. Like, the directing's great, the editing's great, the cinematography's great. It's a very good movie to watch and look at. It's a good looking film. The sound design is really good. The score is really good. there's not a lot of negatives, like when it comes to all those aspects, the technical aspects of going into making this film. Really good stuff. And that, I think they do it the best in this movie out of all the Conjuring universe movies. And that's why this is my favorite one. Yeah. And speaking of James Wan, I gotta give Malignant another watch because when I first saw it, I did not care for it. Like, it was okay. The ending and stuff was pretty good, like with the whole craziness. I'm not gonna spoil it for people who haven't seen it, but I just thought it was alright. But I think it warrants a rewatch at this point because maybe I'll be into it more. Now we have the scene with Billy in bed, and the little fire truck toy comes out of the tent and like drives its way in, like close to his room, and he freaks out. And it's a cool little camera work how it like revolves around and like right onto his face for his reaction. But nothing paranormal has happened here yet that he's seen in any way. Now, I used to get the Hess trucks every year, like when I was a kid growing up. Those things used to turn on all the time, like and just like work on their own. So did he just doesn't consider the fact that like it could just be a toy malfunction? Because a lot of those toys, especially back here in the 70s, or was this 82 or 80s? I got to look it up. If this was in the 80s, might be. I'm not sure. I forget. But still, like toys used to malfunction all the time. So like that is a possibility, right? He knows that. Like I don't know. I guess he doesn't even think of that. He just goes right to like ghost. And like yeah, when he puts it into the like pushes it into the tent and then it gets pushed back out, that's when I'd be like, all right, I'm scared shitless as a little kid. But initially, he should have had that thought of just maybe my toy is just malfunctioning because that shit happened all the time for me with the Hess trucks and other like remote control cars or just any battery powered toy basically like could go off. They didn't master the whole battery powered toys never malfunctioning thing for a while, like after the events of this movie and the time that this movie took place or the events in this movie took place. So just food for thought. Like you definitely could have thought malfunction via toy. Now we have Janet sleepwalking, which we had one of the kids sleepwalking in the first Conjuring. So apparently you need to have somebody who's a sleepwalker in these cases and stuff. For some reason, I don't know, but I feel like they could have skipped all that. We've seen a sleepwalking kid before in the first one. There's really no reason for Janet to be sleepwalking through this, and I'm guessing it's just added in here just for the scenes later when she like supposedly like evaporates out of her room or like from the living room into her locked room. I'm guessing it's just to set up that. But it is a cool scene when the mom goes downstairs and hears the rocking in the rocking chair down in the living room, which we find out later is where Billy, the ghost, died. And she's saying that she's sleepwalking and she's burning up, so she stays home from school. But as they're walking up the stairs, the rocking chair continues to rock, and even like faster than when she was rocking in it. They don't notice this for some reason, but it is effective. Like it is creepy that just seeing that it speeds up as it's rocking. It's a cool little scene. Now this family has a TV with a remote control back in this time. Like they're not doing as bad as the mom's letting on, money wise. Now again, I said this in the last video for the first movie. For the first movie, anyone moves anything in my room like this, I know somebody touched my shit. So her having the remote and then getting the phone call from her mom and then the remote's in the chair in the corner, she should immediately think that something's weird. And she's home alone. And then we see the remote like levitating and then fall to the ground. And we get a cool jump scare. Like, you know how I feel about jump scares, but they do it pretty well here with Billy, or not Billy, or whatever this guy's name is, the ghost. And he just starts messing with the TV, and then he just like pops out right in Janet's face, and like, this is my house. Now this is when you like leave, right? Like you tell your mom this shit like immediately that I just saw a ghost telling us to get out of the house. It doesn't. Does she even say this to her mom? Because I don't remember her like telling her that. Like, but that seems like very important information for her mom and the rest of the family to know. Like, for sure. So Ed was making a painting of Valak, and then as soon as Lorraine sees it, she gets real uneasy because this is the demon that she saw in the Amityville house that's stuck with her ever since when she said, like, this is as close to hell as I ever want to get. And she says that they should not take any, they don't want to take any more cases. Like, they can still do their lectures and stuff that I'm sure so many people were glad to see, and can't take any more cases. I then proceed to immediately take this case in Enfield. We see this too in Insidious with Lin Shaye's character, with Elise. In third one, I want to say, it's not the last key, right? Chapter 3, I'm pretty sure. When the young girl goes to find Elise, and she says, like, I don't do this anymore. Like, you're gonna have to find someone else. And then immediately just like says, all right, I'll help her. Like, just this, how fast they change their minds. I don't know. I find it comical. I also think I prefer this movie to the first one just because I don't know. I just can't relate with Carolyn in that, like with the mom. This, I really love the character of Janet. So the fact that everything is focused around her in this film works so much better for me than in the first Conjuring. Now, the whole scene when Janet is in bed and she hears breathing and hears somebody walking like towards her is a great scene. Like, first of all, just the whole nostalgia, I guess if you can use that word, of being a kid and like being afraid that there's someone in your room and there's a monster and hiding under the covers. That's just such a kid thing to do, and I'm sure pretty much all of us had done that at least once as a kid, like being afraid of a monster and just hiding under the covers and hoping that it goes away. But then the covers, the sheets being pulled right off of her, and then the beds that start shaking for her and her sister. It's a great scene. I absolutely love that. And then the mom wakes up and she's saying, you better not be making this up. And she shows the bite mark on her neck. And now the mom definitely is starting to believe or like something crazy is going on here. But that's an awesome scene. And another reason why I like this better than the first one, that right after that scene, they book it out of their house. They go right across the street to the neighbor, and they stay there while the neighbor goes and checks the house and everything. Like, they're much more intelligent characters in this movie. Like, I'm not saying the actual people, the parents, are stupider people than the real life Enfield case family here, but just how they're portrayed in the last movie. Just the fact in this one that they show a little bit of common sense and they call the cops too and have them come and check the place out. And I think it's an awesome scene too when the cop goes to check where noise is coming from, and the other cop drags the chair over for her to get up on and see where the sound's coming from, and the chair moves on its own, and they have no explanation for it at all. Like, all of that is very handled very well. Yeah, very well handled. Fuck you guys. This is a goddamn long movie too. Like, I completely forgot how long this is. I mean, I guess the first Conjuring is around the same, but like 42 minutes in, there's an hour and a half left. Like, it's a decently long movie. I love when the cops, right after they see the chair move, they're just walking out of the house, and the cop is like, "Well, there's nothing we can do about that. Like, we could file an incident report." Just the way that he delivers that line. It's like, yep, well, I've seen enough. Like, there's nothing that we could help you with, so you better find like somebody else who specializes in ghosts or whatever the hell's going on in your house. Like, awesome little scene there. I do gotta say though, the Warrens with their whole little demonic room with all the conduits and objects and stuff from their cases, for people who lock that room up and say that, as long as you stay out and stuff and not mess around with any of those things, they're all safe there. This is the second movie in a row that some demonic shit happens right in their house, like with no explanation. So for being so cautious, shit still goes down in their house. So they're not that great at containing this evil. Like when Judith is freaking out, shaking almost, pointing when she sees Valak at the end of the hallway. It takes Lorraine so long to finally look down the hallway and see Valak. I mean, like, if I saw my daughter shaking and looking down the hallway pointing, I would immediately look where she's looking. Like, Lorraine just is like looking at her, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?" And then finally, after like 5 seconds, looks up and sees Valak. So, I don't know, just a little thing. But this whole scene here, when she goes into the study or whatever it is, and we get the painting of Valak, and then we see like whatever you want to call it, like a dark energy and stuff, move around the room, and then when it gets back to the painting, like Valak comes out and like has a nice little jump scare there. There's some good jump scares in this movie. As much as I hate jump scares, they're done pretty effectively in this, and that's probably another reason why I prefer this movie to the first one. And in that scene, before Valak like pops out and does that jump scare, we got some Christmas music that gets turned on. So this is now a Christmas movie. Damn, man, that really is a great scene. Like, it really is. Just there's so much tension in that. Just the way that Lorraine is watching the shadow of Alec walking around the room, and then it gets to the painting. It's shot so well. And, like, Vera Farmiga just kills it in the scene. Not in the whole movie, but awesome the way that she is terrified of seeing Valak again. When this is what scared her to death in Amityville. Like, oh, I love that scene. The fact that we didn't get Marilyn Manson playing Valak is a crime, man, because they look so similar. Now we see Lorraine in the trance and stuff. Or she's like, after that whole jump scare, she's like in the basement in Amityville and sees Valak again, and she's asking who it is, and we see her scribbling in a trance in her Bible, and this comes into play at the end, and it's a point to make here to stick a pin in it because it's absolutely stupid how they banish Valak at the end of this. But she writes the name down unknowingly in her Bible. But it is cool how if you look on the shelf, there are letters that spell out the name Valak. So it's a nice little Easter egg thing that you have to really be paying attention to notice. Now, I also think this case is a lot more interesting because it actually got media coverage. They had people on the news interviewing all the people that supposedly saw stuff, like the police officers who saw the chair moving, and there was, I think it's a woman who was on, like, who used to walk around the neighborhood, or maybe it was a neighbor or something like that, but she claimed that she saw Janet levitating, like being moved around through the window. So, like, there's a lot more possible evidence to this case. Even though, like I said, we find out that Janet was faking shit, like a little more into this movie. But there are some more unanswered questions for this case than there is in the Perrin case in the first Conjuring. Now, we get a pretty infamous scene here because there is video footage of this, of the actual case, with them on the news, with Janet and her sister on the couch, and they're interviewing them, and then Janet starts talking in like a guttural, raspy voice. And you can see this footage on YouTube. Like, you can check it out and watch the actual broadcast of this whole little scene here. I mean, of course, it's very much embellished here in the movie, but just interesting that, like I said, this is why I like this movie a lot more, because there's just a lot more stuff you can really look into for yourself and read about this case and watch videos about it than the Perrin case. So just all around, this whole movie does so much more for me than the first film. And I know I've been harping on the Warrens like crazy, like I said at the beginning of this, but Maurice Grosse, the guy here he stuck by Janet and her story for pretty much, I think, until he died. Like, he was pretty much their biggest advocate that this was actually happening and all the stuff that he saw. So, as a skeptic, like, don't get me wrong, I'm a horror fanatic my whole life. I would love nothing more than to find out that monsters and ghosts and demons and shit are real. Like, I really would. Like it kind of reminds me of Adam Green in Digging Up the Marrow, when he says to Ray Wise, his character, and says like, I would love, don't you like would want to find out that these are actually real? Like this is what we've been thinking about our entire lives. We're horror fans. Like it would be amazing to find out that all this stuff is actually real, and it would. There's just no evidence of it anywhere ever in recorded history. There's theories, there's stuff out there that maybe can't be explained, but there's no evidence that that ever happened, that any of this is true in any way. And that's why I harp on the Warrens so much. Besides the fact that they were goddamn scam artists. Like, at their core, 100% nothing more than scam artists. So, I don't know. Billy gives his mom biscuits. So, again, for the second time, not able to afford biscuits, but yet produce amazing biscuits. And I know I said this already, but god damn, man, the tent in the hallway is so Sixth Sense. I feel like Bruce Willis's ghost is standing right behind me. Like, that's how Sixth Sense this is. Then we get the Crooked Man scene with Billy. Awesome. Like I said, I would love to see the movie based on just the Crooked Man, which, god damn, man, I really wish, I hope that they're still making that movie, because he is a creepy friggin' demon or monster or whatever the hell it is. But then it ends up just being Janet. Like as she walks into the room, it's her, so she can turn into the Crooked Man. I guess. I don't know. Yeah, the ghost name is Bill, so I don't know why I doubted that earlier. Bill Wilkins, and he was 72 years old, and he died in the rocking chair. So they kept that rocking chair when they moved in, like from the previous tenant, who were owner of the house, which is this guy Billy. And I like how they make you think that the ghost of Bill is like the main force at work here. We know differently just from seeing the Warrens and especially Lorraine dealing with Alec, but that's like in Connecticut where the Warrens are. So like it's still kind of a nice little surprise when you find out that Bill is just some other ghost there that died, and that Valak is the actual demon that's possessing them, not or possessing or haunting them, but like Vala can just like hop on a plane and go to Britain, like from the U.S., from Connecticut, where she is with the Warrens. I don't know how any of that works, so I can't really comment on it because it's just insane. Then we finally find out why Lorraine, in the first movie, when Ed was telling the father that Lorraine saw something during the Frenchie exorcism, and she locked herself in the room for 8 days and didn't say anything, is that she saw the premonition of Ed's death with the spike coming through his chest and everything. But just their whole dialogue together in the scene, oh, fucking killing it. I love Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga together. Like, I can't say that enough. Now, there's having a cross or two in a room, maybe a couple, but there are way too many crosses in that room. Like, there's like, has to be at least 50 crosses. And she said that the neighbors donated them. She has a lot of neighbors. All right, call it the romantic in me, but the whole scene with Janet on the swing and Lorraine comes out and she's trying to get her to open up, and she's telling the story that like when she was young she saw an angel and no one believed her, and then she ended up trusting people and she got hurt a bunch until one person finally believed her, and she asked, what did you do then? And she says, I married him. Then later on, when Ed is saying the same thing, and then he's like, you know what I did? And she said, you married her. She's like, oh, you heard this story before. I love all of that. Like, that's such a nice little addition here. Like, it adds so much to just their characters and stuff. I love this movie. Like, I really do, compared to the first and the third one. I'm not looking forward to that, but maybe it'll get better on another watch. I will also say this. Out of all these cases, this one has the most potential for being possibly something actually happened there. I'm not saying like anything that we see in this movie and the craziness that we see as the movie goes on, but there are some, like I said, unanswered questions here, and there are some actually interesting things that haven't been explained. And wouldn't you know it, the Warrens weren't there. Like, had nothing to do with this case. Like I said, I think they were there for a day or two and they left. That was it. So we didn't have them there. And this is maybe the most possible, and that's a huge, huge possible, but possible that something happened here in this house. When Janet and Lorraine are back on the swing and they're swinging back and forth, I always just like wish that like they would kick up the dirt and we'd see Tommy, the Chucky doll, like buried underneath it. It always reminds me of that. Like I would love to just see this movie once and have that inserted in there. That they just kick up the dirt and there's Chucky's doll underneath it. Okay, yeah, I thought it was the 70s still. It's 1977 that this took place. I don't know why I thought maybe it was the early 80s. Maybe that's the Devil Made Me Do It, the third one. I think that one was in the 80s. So this is 77. So we have this whole infamous scene here with Janet sitting in Bill's chair and she ends up drinking water and holding it in her mouth. That way she can't be making any of the voices and stuff. Okay, cool. The fact that she says that he won't talk until everyone's not looking and turns around is where it all goes to bullshit. Like, come on. Like, that is like the most suspicious shit ever. Like, if they really didn't have a problem with that. They were like, okay, let's just turn our backs on her. And like one of the investigators say later, she could have just spit the water out and then took another sip while you weren't looking. Great job on her part for being a rational person, because that's probably exactly what she did. Like 100%. And more on that topic, you're telling me that the 5 people in the room here, 5 or 6 people, not one of them sneaked a peek. Not one of them like turned around just to see and got curious. I would have, like, absolutely. So none of them turned around during this when they started hearing Bill's voice. Like, just like a little, that's it. Like, just to take a look. Not one of them. I don't know. I do love the whole way this scene is shot, though. How you have Janet in the chair in the background, all out of focus, and then you have Patrick Wilson, you have Ed in the foreground, and he's in focus, and then you can kind of see Bill's ghost, like, on top of Janet, like, overlaid on top of her. It's shot very, very well, this scene. And then we get the words come out of Bill's mouth saying, "It let me go," or "help it let me go," which we find out later when, so conveniently, when they're leaving, the Warrens are leaving on the train or whatever, bus, whatever the hell it is, and he drops the reels, the audio reels, and the tapes crisscross together, and then he just thinks to play the 2 tapes together, and then it says, "Help it won't let me go." It's so convenient. Like, I mean, it's fine, but I have to roll my eyes every single time that happens. And like I said, just the way that you can relate and care about these characters. There's so much great character development here, and just moments between Janet and her mom, like when she says that she wasn't smoking the cigarette, she was just holding it to look cool. Now, I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure she was smoking a cigarette. Didn't she take a puff off of it at the beginning? I'm not sure, so I'm not calling her a liar because I would have to go and look back. But just that whole scene between them and stuff, it really is effective in making you care more and more for them. In the first movie, it was a lot harder because they had, what, like 5 freaking kids. So, like, it's a much harder to make you care for a family with that many kids and have them all have interactions with the parents and stuff that you can really care about them more. And it's another reason why this movie is a lot more effective for me. They do a great job with it. The scene with Janet when she's like hanging on the ceiling, like stuck to the ceiling, and she still sees the ghost of Bill walk off get up out of the couch, the rocking chair, and starts walking up the stairs, and he's whistling the nursery rhyme. And then she just gets pulled through the ceiling and into the locked room, and all the crucifixes are there. That's such a cool shot. Like when she arrives in the room and just looks around and the crucifixes are there and then they all start turning upside down. That's awesome. I love that scene too. Like, as you can tell, if you saw my video on the first Conjuring, I like so many scenes in this movie compared to the first one. Like they killed it with this movie. They really did compared to everything else in the Conjuring universe. Like I said, Annabelle Creation comes close, pretty damn close. But God, I love this movie. And like I said, there are more things in this case that make it a lot more interesting to look into because we have Janet that appears out of thin air, it seems, in this locked room. So, how did she get in there? That is a good question. Like, that is something that I don't think has been explained. The only thing I can think of is that if the whole family was in on it, the mom was in on this story, and she let Janet in the room and locked it back up before I can't even say before the Warrens because they weren't there, or Maurice or whatever when he goes and tries opening it. Like that's the only thing I can think of is that the mom was in on it too, and the sister, and she ended up just letting Janet in and then locking it back in. So it looks like she just appeared in that room. But like I said, the scene is so well shot. It's so well done, and it's very creepy, especially when you see and then you see that face like in the crack of the door. That's another thing too. Actually, she is a small girl, and the door, like the gap when you can open the door, even though the chains are on it, it might be big enough that she can squeeze herself through. Like I'm not sure. They don't show it like for long enough, and then you see like the demon's face in there, like with Janet. But that's a possibility too. Like she could have possibly squeezed herself in through the gap in the door, and then just shut the door after that. So that's something to ponder too. And another thing I love about this movie is that they show them casting doubt on this whole case. It's not like the first Conjuring when it's just like, oh shit, all right, we believe you. Like we've seen all this stuff, and now let's perform an exorcism. Like they have that whole scene with the Warrens and Maurice Gross and the other guy, and then the skeptic woman, and they all are shedding doubt on it. And when they show the picture of Janet levitating, when I mentioned that earlier, Ed flat out says like the position of her knees and her back is bent and stuff. It looks like she's just jumping, and the woman saying that like she was just conned by a Welsh family about being possessed by demons, and just the way that they cast doubt on everything and not just accepting it flat out is awesome. Like I really like that about this movie, that they don't just take the word for it. Like there's actually them contemplating whether Janet's making this up or not. So just that whole fact is awesome. And then it's cute just seeing Patrick Wilson, seeing Ed take the guitar and start playing Elvis Presley. Like it's just a lot more of those moments that you see this family as like an actual family and that you can care and relate to them. And people, most of you know, I play guitar. Ed just picks up that guitar that's been there for so long, who knows how long, and it's perfectly in tune. That's probably the most unbelievable shit in this movie. And I gotta say, I'm not an Elvis fan, but Can't Help Falling in Love with You, I think, is one of the greatest songs ever written. Like, it is such a well written song. It's such a beautiful song. And just seeing the family there all singing together. And I know some people hate this scene and think it's corny and over the top. I said the same thing in my discussion on X from this year with them playing Landslide. That I could see people not liking that too. And that it's a little on the nose. But I don't give a shit. Like, I absolutely love that scene. Like it really like kind of tugs on your heartstrings a little bit, and again, just makes you feel for this family. And you see Lorraine and stuff looking at Ed while he's singing and playing, and just you could just Farmiga kills it in this movie, man. And on every rewatch of this movie, I feel like I just like it even more to the point of loving this movie. Like it just gets better with every watch. Not only are they great demonologists, but Ed actually is nice enough to fix their plumbing, like while he's staying here. So I don't know. And it is Christmas time around here, so this is a Christmas demonic possession movie. So it fits the theme well. The only thing I could say, and I didn't even say this about the first movie because I was spending a lot of time praising and giving so much love to the Warrens and Andrea Perron, that this movie's a little too long. Same with the first one. Like they could have trimmed a good 20 minutes off of this movie, and it would have been just as effective. It would have been just as fine. There's still 40 minutes left. Like, it is a little long, like, for sure. They could have cut at least 15, if not 20 minutes out of this movie, and it would have been just as fine. Like, the whole story would have worked just as well as it does, and it really didn't need to be this long. The scene when Janet is standing next to her sister and Billy, and I completely forgot that they have another son. Like, this kid is not in this movie, like, hardly at all. So I was like, wait a minute, who the hell is this? And Johnny, like, he's not in the movie, like, much at all. I completely forgot that they had 4 kids. But the scene when he goes into the kitchen, and then Janet disappears, and then he turns around, and she's, like, crouched there with the knife in her hand, that's really cool. Like, that's a cool little scare. And then they open up the little closet or whatever, and she's tangled up in there with, like, contorted and everything. They don't even try to show how they got her out of there. Like, she was all mangled up, and her arm is, like, over her head, and her leg is, like, they don't even try to explain how they got her out of there. They just show her in there, and it's a cool shot and everything. But then just next scene, like, she's out. Like, I would love to see how they, like, unraveled her body and got her out of that little crawl space or whatever that is. And then we get the scene where this is where this case all falls apart, because they have video footage of Janet destroying the kitchen and throwing a chair all over the place, throwing plates and bending the spoon. So any rational person is going to look at this and say, if she faked this, she faked everything. That, like, there's no chance that she faked some of this stuff while there was some actual stuff going on. So, like, that's, like, the nail in the coffin, really. I still said there's some unanswered questions, and it's very interesting reading about this case, but that would have been it for me, too. Like, as soon as I saw that footage, that she was making all of this up, I'm out. Like, she's lying. Like, 100%. And, I mean, it sucks to be in that situation as the Warrens in this movie, to have to see that and then just say, like, you know, like, it's fake and they got to leave and they feel bad about, you know, this family. But I'd do the same thing. Like, I really would. Like, there's nothing that would keep me there after seeing that footage, like, at all. Yeah, then we see them leaving the Warrens, and they get on train or whatever the hell it is, and Ed drops the 2 tapes that crisscross together, and that just brilliantly, like, puts a light bulb on in his mind to start playing the tapes together, and that's how he hears the entire message of "Help me" or "Won't let me go." And then that's when they end up finally believing this is real, and they have to book it back there just in time. It's so convenient. Like, it really is. I feel like they could have found a much better way at having that reveal than just what they did here. Like, just him dropping the tapes out of his bag, and they just happen to crisscross like that, and that triggers him to, like, put them together. They could have thought of such a better way. But I like Lorraine's line when she says, don't you think it's a little convenient that Janet was faking an incident in the one room that had to happen to have a video camera pointed at it? I don't know what that's supposed to imply. Like, was the demon possessing her and making her fake all that stuff? I'm guessing that's what they're implying there. But the whole thing with the tape just could have been handled so much better. Also very convenient that Lorraine, when she's leaving the house with Ed, and Maurice Gross is, like, trying to keep him there and trying to get them to stay and take a leap of faith. And even Ed says, he's like, the church would call us back even if the mom didn't just kick us out, because the only evidence we have is Janet faking evidence. But Lorraine says that she isn't sensing anything in that house. How? Like, she's not sensing anything in that house this whole time? And then conveniently, when after he plays the tape on the train, she has the vision, and then she hears the whole little riddle that is, you know, we find out later means your name, and that gives her the whole tip of finding out the demon's name and leads to the stupidest ending for this. And I don't know, it's just very convenient that, like, as soon as he plays the tape, then she finally has a whole big ass vision and sees Bill, and then sees Valak behind him and realizes that this is Valak that's trying to take over Janet. They could have done that better with that too. Everything that happens on the train, they could have done so much better with. As much as I love this movie, it really kind of falls flat a lot near the end here. And I feel like that's another reason they could have trimmed a nice 15-20 minutes out of this. When Lorraine and them are racing back to the house and she starts saying the riddle, it's got to be one of the fastest solving of a riddle in a movie. Like, she says it, and literally 3 seconds later, Ed is like, your name. Like, not even a thought, not even like a first guess. He just gets it right the first time. I don't know, man. Like, it feels so just convenient. Like, I don't want to keep saying the same word, but it's like, that's how it feels. Like, and then the whole point of this at the end, that they banish Valak just by knowing the demon's name and just saying Valak over and over again, and then that banishes the demon. Is such a stupid ending for this movie. Like, it really is. And I keep saying, I love this movie, but there's a lot of stupid stuff near the end here, and it's a shame because they could have done a lot better. But this is 100% the best film in the Conjuring universe, like, for me, without a doubt. I forgot all about this. This is what makes it even stupider with the ending, with the name. Why? She said that I asked you, and you told me your name. So why would the demon who's trying to take over Janet just willingly give away the thing that is going to banish her away? Like, it's so stupid. Like, they could. I wish they did something better with the ending here, because it would have just, I don't know, it would have just made it that much better than the great movie that it already is. But what a stupid ending. It really is. And then Valak's gone, and all's well in Tinseltown, and Ed's alive, so her vision of him dying never happened. So luckily, Ed and Lorraine Warren are fine. And then we just end and we see all, like, the actual family and, like, the pictures and stuff like that, and we hear, like, the audio. So, The Conjuring 2, 2016, my favorite in this whole Conjuring universe. And definitely an interesting case, the Enfield haunting. So if anyone hasn't read up on the actual case, it is very interesting. So definitely check it out. This is probably the last video I'm going to have up tonight, because I am going with a friend to the movies to see a double feature of Silent Night, Deadly Night, and Black Christmas. So that will be absolutely awesome, both 35mm, and that is going to be a real treat. So, alright guys, wherever you're from, hope you're having a good morning or night, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.